The death of Celeste Rivas Hernández, a pop star's car, a missing girl, and a nation in shock. Part 1. The Vanishing. Celeste Rivas Hernández was just 15 years old when she disappeared. It was April 5, 2024, in Lake Elsinore, Riverside County, California. A warm spring afternoon. Friends remembered her as shy but bubbly, a girl who liked to sing along to her favorite artists on TikTok. That day, she never came home. Her mother reported her missing within hours, desperate, calling every friend, every relative, even going door to door. But the weeks stretched into months. Flyers with Celeste's face appeared on telephone poles. Social media campaigns began, #FindCeleste. Local police investigated, but like so many cases of missing teens, the trail went cold quickly. For over a year, Celeste's family lived in torment. Every phone call could be news. Every knock on the door made her mother's heart stop. But nothing came. Celeste had simply vanished into the void. Until September 2025. It started with a tow yard in Los Angeles. An abandoned Tesla had been impounded, sitting unnoticed for days. Workers finally approached it when a sickly odor leaked into the air. The smell of death. Inside the trunk was a black plastic bag. Inside that bag, the decomposed remains of a teenage girl. At first, police didn't know who she was. But fingerprints, tattoos, and dental records told the truth. It was Celeste, the girl who'd been missing for 17 months. And then came the detail that exploded this story far beyond the borders of California. The Tesla wasn't just any car. It was registered to David Anthony Burke, better known to the world as D4VD, a 19-year-old rising star in the music world, loved by millions of Gen Z fans. A missing girl. A pop star's car. A body hidden for months. Nothing about it made sense. And yet it was only the beginning of a case that would shake the music industry, ignite social media, and spark one of the most controversial investigations in recent memory. Because soon, fans would start digging. They would uncover songs, lyrics, even tattoos that pointed to a chilling possibility. Celeste hadn't just vanished randomly. She may have been closer to her favorite artist than anyone dared to imagine. And if that was true, then who was David Burke really? Part 2. The Discovery. When word first broke that Celeste Rivas Hernández's body had been discovered in Los Angeles, the initial reaction was shock. But when police confirmed that the Tesla she was found in was registered to David Anthony Burke, D4VD, the shock turned into something darker, disbelief. Fans refused to believe it. "There's no way," one post on X read. "He's too sweet, too humble." Another user argued, "Celebrities get their cars stolen all the time. It doesn't mean he's involved." Law enforcement wasn't ready to draw conclusions either. Detectives at LAPD's Homicide Division stressed that a car registration doesn't equal guilt. They explained that stolen vehicles often ended up abandoned, sometimes even used for crimes without the owner's knowledge. But questions piled up fast. Why had the Tesla sat unnoticed in a tow yard for nearly a week before anyone checked inside? Why had no one reported it stolen? Why was the body so well hidden, wrapped in plastic and tucked deep in the trunk? The coroner's office provided little comfort. They determined Celeste had likely been dead for months, but her state of decomposition made it impossible to pin down an exact date. The cause of death was listed as pending further analysis. Meanwhile, Celeste's family faced the unbearable. For over a year, they had prayed she would return home alive. Now they had only silence, and the gruesome knowledge that she had been hidden, discarded, as though her life meant nothing. Her mother, at a press conference, sobbed through trembling words. "Celeste was my baby. She loved music, she loved life, and someone took that from her. I want justice for my daughter." The press conference, live-streamed across the country, ignited outrage. Protesters gathered outside LAPD headquarters with signs demanding accountability. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Some claimed Celeste had been secretly dating D4VD, pointing to cryptic lyrics in his songs. Others suggested she was an obsessed fan who somehow got too close. Darker corners of the internet insisted the music industry itself was covering up something bigger, that Celeste's death was tied to rituals whispered about in hushed online threads. The pressure mounted on police. Detectives confirmed they had interviewed D4VD, who cooperated fully. David Burke is devastated by this tragedy. He did not know Celeste personally and had no involvement in these horrific events. "We ask the public to allow investigators to do their jobs and respect the families affected." Still, the questions didn't fade. Why was Celeste found in his car, of all cars? And then came the twist that deepened the mystery, a receipt, crumpled in the Tesla's glove compartment, time-stamped just 3 days before the vehicle was impounded. It was for a fast food meal. A meal that detectives believed someone, alive and well, had eaten in that very car, while Celeste's body lay hidden in the trunk. Part 3. The Investigation. Detectives now faced a labyrinth of contradictions. On one hand, the evidence was chilling. Celeste Rivas Hernández remains found in the trunk of a Tesla linked to a rising music star, and a food receipt proving someone had been driving that car long after her death. On the other hand, nothing directly tied David Burke, known to millions as D4VD, to the crime itself. The LAPD went public with a cautious statement. "We are treating this as an active homicide investigation. At this time, no arrests have been made. We are exploring all possible leads, including theft of the vehicle and third-party involvement." But the court of public opinion had no such restraint. Online, fan groups turned into battlegrounds. Hashtags like #JusticeForCeleste and #ProtectD4VD trended simultaneously, fueling endless speculation. Some fans defended him with near-religious fervor. The industry wants to take him down, that's why they're framing him. Others demanded answers. If he's innocent, why was she in his car at all? Meanwhile, Celeste's family grew frustrated. Her sister, Marisol, spoke to Univision, accusing the LAPD of protecting celebrities. If this was anyone else's car, they would already be in handcuffs. Why is this different? My sister deserves the same justice as anyone else. Detectives tried to balance transparency with caution. They released security camera footage showing the Tesla entering a downtown parking garage weeks before it was impounded. The driver, wearing a hoodie, kept their face hidden. The footage was grainy, inconclusive, but one detail stood out. The driver appeared much smaller than D4VD's tall frame. Theories multiplied. Some argued it was proof of his innocence. Others countered, that could be anyone. A friend, a fan, even a hired accomplice. Then investigators uncovered another clue, Celeste's phone records. Her last known messages weren't to family or friends, but to an unknown number saved only as D. The texts were cryptic, almost pleading. His team issued a statement. "Are you really going to help me? Please don't leave me like this. I'm scared." The final message, sent at 11:43 p.m. on the night she vanished, read, "Where are you? I'm outside." Celeste's phone went dead minutes later. Reporters seized on the messages, connecting the mysterious D to David Burke. The story splashed across headlines worldwide. Missing woman texted D before disappearance. Was it D4VD? The pop star's team doubled down, insisting the messages were being misinterpreted. They claimed Celeste may have been catfished, tricked into thinking she was communicating with D4VD when in reality it was someone else. Privately, detectives began to consider that possibility. Imposters pretending to be celebrities were nothing new. But if Celeste believed she was meeting D4VD the night she vanished, it meant someone had exploited that trust and lured her into a deadly trap. Still, the central question remained, how did her body end up in the real D4VD's car? Theories swirled, but one unsettling possibility began to take shape. Whoever lured Celeste may have had access not only to her trust, but to D4VD's personal life as well. Part 4. The media storm, fame, fear, and the turning tide. By the time the text messages hit the press, the case had spiraled beyond the control of investigators. What had begun as a local Los Angeles homicide probe was now global news. Every major network carried the story. Late-night hosts cracked uneasy jokes. True crime podcasts recorded emergency episodes. The phrase Celeste and the Tesla became a grim shorthand for a mystery that seemed stranger than fiction. For David Burke, life transformed overnight into a siege. Paparazzi swarmed outside his gated residence. Drone cameras hovered over his backyard. Every trip to the studio or grocery store was photographed, analyzed, and dissected by millions online. His management issued a carefully worded statement. David is fully cooperating with authorities and has no involvement in this tragic case. He is devastated for Celeste Rivas Hernández's family and hopes justice will be served. But in the digital age, official statements carried little weight. Screenshots, rumors, and conspiracy threads dominated TikTok and X. One viral theory suggested that Celeste was a superfan who had forced her way into D4VD's orbit, an interpretation that painted her as unstable. Another, more sinister theory, claimed she had been romantically involved with him, and that her death was the result of a relationship gone wrong. Neither theory had evidence, but both spread like wildfire. For Celeste's family, the rumors were salt in the wound. Marisol broke down during a televised interview. "My sister is not a headline. She is not a meme. She is a human being who is gone, and she deserves to be remembered with dignity. Meanwhile, detectives confirmed something critical. Celeste and David had, in fact, been in the same room at least once. A photograph surfaced of a fan meet and greet 6 months earlier, where Celeste stood in line with dozens of others, clutching a signed album. In the picture, she looked ecstatic. David barely seemed to register her presence. But the connection was enough for tabloids to explode with proof they knew each other. Under pressure, David sat down for a tense interview on Good Morning America. He insisted, "I never knew her personally. That meet and greet photo is the first and last time I saw her. I had nothing to do with what happened. Somebody used my car, and somehow, she ended up in it. I want answers just like everybody else." The interview aired to millions, but reactions were split. Some viewers sympathized, pointing out the fear and exhaustion in his voice. Others called it rehearsed, a desperate attempt to control the narrative. The media storm grew so ferocious that the LAPD issued a rare plea for restraint, urging journalists and fans alike not to interfere with the investigation. But the genie was out of the bottle. Every detail of Celeste's life was scrutinized. Her TikToks, her last Instagram posts, the playlist she made for her friends. A final clip, uploaded just weeks before her disappearance, went viral. Celeste singing softly to one of David's songs, her voice full of quiet hope. The caption read, "His music gets me through everything." The video racked up millions of views after her death. To some, it was a tribute. To others, it was proof of obsession. Meanwhile, in the shadows, detectives were piecing together a far darker theory. One that suggested Celeste's fate was not the result of chance, but of someone who knew exactly how to use her devotion against her. Part 5, The Breakthrough, A Trail of Shadows. 2 months into the investigation, frustration weighed heavily on detectives. The Tesla had yielded no fingerprints, no DNA beyond Celeste's. The security cameras around the parking garage had been disabled on the night of her disappearance. Whoever orchestrated this had been careful. Too careful. But then came the break. Digital forensics traced the Tesla's activity logs. Unlike conventional cars, Teslas track nearly every movement, speed, location, even when the doors open. Investigators discovered that the car had been driven multiple times in the days leading up to Celeste's death, despite David Burke claiming it had been parked at his studio lot the entire week. Worse, the logs showed access to the vehicle using a duplicate key card. The question was chilling. Who had the duplicate? Detectives dug deeper into David's inner circle. A former bodyguard. A studio technician. An assistant who had recently been fired under strange circumstances. Any of them could have had proximity to the car. Any of them could have slipped it out of the garage without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, Celeste's phone records revealed another disturbing thread. In the weeks before her disappearance, she had been texting with an unknown number. The messages were affectionate, insistent, and littered with references to David's music. Phrases like "he understands us," and "one day, you'll see him the way I do." The tone suggested someone pretending to be close to David, maybe even pretending to be him. Investigators theorized Celeste had been catfished, manipulated by someone who exploited her devotion to lure her into a deadly trap. Marisol wept when detectives shared the findings. "She thought she was talking to him," she said. "She thought he saw her." The breakthrough shifted the focus of the case. It was no longer about whether David Burke himself was involved, but about who within his orbit might have used his fame as a weapon. But just as detectives began tightening the net, a second twist sent shockwaves through Los Angeles. A new victim surfaced. This time, it wasn't a young fan. It was one of David's former employees, the fired assistant. She was found in her apartment, dead from what police initially ruled an overdose. But a note on her desk raised alarms. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I never wanted anyone to die." The investigation took a sharp, dark turn. Had she been the catfish? Or had someone silenced her before she could confess the truth? Either way, the pattern was clear. Celeste's death was no isolated tragedy. It was part of a chain, and the links were closing in on the person who had orchestrated it all. Part 6, The Revelation: Truth in the Shadows. By late November 2025, the case of Celeste Rivas Hernández had consumed the nation. What began as a missing girl story had transformed into a twisted saga of celebrity, obsession, betrayal, and murder. But the truth, when it finally came out, was darker and more devastating than anyone had imagined. Detectives had been circling around one figure for weeks: the former assistant, the young woman found dead in her Los Angeles apartment with a note on her desk. At first, her death was brushed off as suicide, the guilt of someone who may have lured Celeste under false pretenses. But the note, vague as it was, didn't sit right with investigators. Forensic analysis revealed the handwriting wasn't consistent with hers. Even stranger, her phone, missing from the crime scene, reappeared days later in a pawn shop across town, wiped clean. Someone had staged her death. Someone wanted her silenced. That discovery reignited the investigation with brutal urgency. If the assistant wasn't the puppet master, then who was? The breakthrough came from the Tesla's encrypted logs. Tesla's servers had stored more than just routes and door openings. Buried deep within the data, investigators found a series of entries linked to biometric authentication attempts. The car had repeatedly failed to recognize a fingerprint before finally granting access to someone who used a registered keycard. The fingerprint wasn't David Burke's. It belonged to a man named Adrian Vega, a shadowy figure who worked as an independent contractor for the music industry. Vega had once been part of D4VD's extended entourage, hired for odd jobs, security details, and fixer work. He had access. He had opportunity. When detectives pulled his records, a chilling portrait emerged. Vega had a history of fraud, catfishing, and online harassment. He was known to pose as celebrities in fan groups, preying on young women for money and attention. Several had accused him in the past, but none of the cases had stuck. The missing puzzle pieces fell into place. Vega had posed as Dee, convincing Celeste she was speaking with her idol. He lured her out, promising a meeting, a connection, maybe even the fantasy of being noticed by the pop star she adored. When she met him, things spiraled into violence. Whether by accident or intention, she never came home. Panicked, Vega had hidden her body in the very car tied to the real D4VD, knowing the connection would muddy the waters and buy him time. But as the pressure mounted, Vega silenced the assistant too, either because she suspected him or because she had played a small role in helping him gain access. The revelation broke like a storm. LAPD announced Adrian Vega's arrest during a midnight press conference, their voices strained but firm. "We have reason to believe that Mr. Vega manipulated Celeste Rivas Hernández through online deception and used his access to David Burke's vehicle to conceal her body. This was a calculated and predatory crime. We are seeking justice for Celeste and her family." Across the world, headlines screamed the name of the man who had lurked in the shadows. Fans flooded social media with grief and rage, some apologizing to Celeste's family for doubting them, others apologizing to D4VD for weeks of misplaced suspicion. For Celeste's mother, the revelation was both relief and heartbreak. At her daughter's candlelight vigil, she told the crowd, "My baby trusted someone who took advantage of her innocence. She believed in kindness, in music, in dreams. That man stole her future, but he will never take her voice from us. We will carry her with us always." D4VD, too, finally broke his silence in a raw, unfiltered livestream to his fans. "I wish I could go back in time and protect her. I wish I could erase the pain her family feels. This wasn't me, but it happened because of the world around me, the world of fame and shadows that I didn't see clearly enough. If you love me, if you listen to my music, please remember Celeste. Please say her name." The livestream went viral, cementing Celeste's story not just as a tragedy but as a warning, about obsession, about deception, about how easily a predator could weaponize trust. In the end, the revelation did not erase the pain. It did not bring Celeste home. But it gave her family answers. It gave the world clarity. And it tore away the veil of celebrity to reveal a brutal truth. In the shadows of fame, monsters can hide in plain sight. Adrian Vega now faces trial. The charges: kidnapping, murder, and conspiracy. But for millions who followed Celeste's story, the verdict doesn't matter as much as the lesson she left behind. Sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones that tell us exactly what we want to hear. And as the case closes, one haunting question lingers. How many more Celestes are out there, waiting in the shadows for someone to listen before it's too late?